Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news, and update show. And we've got some updates and some actually pretty decent sources, developments in regards to the outs at Manchester United. We all know right now, Mbeumo is done, Cunha is done. But let's be honest, the most important thing isn't our next signing. It probably is, but our most important thing is the outs, because that will allow us to get a good next signing. It is the outs. It is bringing the money in. And there's reports today actually just coming out of Bayern Munich interested in Garnacho, but Garnacho wants to stay in the Premier League. Could Bayern Munich tempt Garnacho, potentially get 60 million there. But the big report coming out was mostly on Malassia because it's come out from a tier 1 source of information. One of the best journalists in the space has spoken about Malassia to Saudi, 7 million coming in for Manchester United. So that is a big report, but also Saudi eyeing up Antony. Can they convince Antony to make the move? Real Betis, as we know, as we've discussed, Real Betis' tactic right now is basically delay the Antony deal, take it to the end of the window, so Manchester United have no choice but allow them to get Antony on loan. Man United aren't having that because Betis have made over £50 million in sales and are buying other players. But because Antony's rejected a few other clubs, Betis will be like, well, Man United will be stuck. They'll be in this position where they have to loan out Antony, la. Now, Atletico Madrid have a little bit of interest in Antony, but they need European players as part of a quota. But Saudi have interest in Antony. And I think with Manchester United, if other teams come in for Antony and Antony starts showing interest in other teams and he's starting to get fed up with Betis and starting to get annoyed, maybe that will force Betis to actually give us the money for Antony. But Betis are looking there. They loaned out Rashford with a 26 million option to buy, who is a better player than Antony. Betis are thinking, oh, could we get more of the same? So this Saudi interest in Antony is big. Saudi interest in Malassia is very big, with Malassia reportedly, being open to this move. It might only be 7 million, but every little bit counts. 15 million wages saved with Marcus Rashford, 7 million for Malassia, 6 million for Alvaro, 7 million for Elanga, wasn't it? 2 million for Maxi Odelay. Every little bit counts in this window where we desperately need money. Also, all of that. So we're going to talk about all the news, all the updates, the stories on Garnacho, the stories on Hojlund, his future, and more. But honestly, Real Betis, guys, Real Betis, they could literally buy Antony. They've made £50 million, and they know they're getting Antony to reject everybody but them and force Manchester United into a position where we get to the end of the window and we have to let Antony go out on loan. And all I'm going to say is, he said put Garnacho, Garte, Mount, Hojlund, Maguire, Shot, and Nana on the plane to Saudi Arabia and tell the pilot to head east. I tell you what, Luke Shaw, can't believe he's still a Manchester United player. Mason Mount isn't going anywhere because Amarin likes him. Maguire's got 1 year left on his deal. Agate, we need the legs, we'll give him another season. Garnacho, we're hoping he goes somewhere. But look, all I am going to say is right now, and look, I get we're back in Amarin. I get if Amarin doesn't want these players in and around training, let's not have them in around training. But to back Amarin, the best way to back Amarin is to give him new signings. And the best way to give Amarin new signings is to make sales. And when you've made it very clear, Rashford, Antony, Malacia, Sancho and Garnacho are not on tour, not welcome back to training by any means, not welcome back at all. Teams know the longer and longer we go out selling them, the cheaper and cheaper we'll sell them, or we will budge to loan deals. I think if we'd have brought those players back to training, pretended they were in the plans, I think we could have got more exits and more money in the bank right now. And that's the question. Is it worth bringing these players back to training, even if Amarin doesn't want them, to pretend that we want to keep them so we can actually sell them? Or is it better to just sell them on the cheap, let them go on loan, be mugged off by other clubs, but Amarin doesn't get a distraction in training? What do you think is better? I'm intrigued on your thoughts. I'm going to get into the super chat and then I'm going to get into the first story. I thought Man United can't ruin my day anymore in the summer break. Boy, I was wrong. I mean, Man United and the Mbeumo deal taking 6 weeks was just so painful. But honestly, if we can send a load of players on a plane to Saudi, it would be good. But look, let's talk about Malassia because that is probably the most advanced and it shouldn't be a difficult deal to do. This has come out from VL_NL. Now, they were the first source of information, was it 3 years ago, to tell us before Romano, before Ornstein, that Malassia was going to United. They broke our interest in Malassia before anyone else. This is the source when we signed Malassia that was on it. Before Romano, before Ornstein, this was the best VLNL Dutch source. They were like, so this is, for me, the best source of information when it comes to Malassia. Better than Ornstein, better than Romano. Just going to give you context for that. Like how good this source was when we signed Malassia ahead of Romano and Ornstein. They're saying this. Several European clubs have acquired about Malassia's status, but first concrete offer for him has come from Saudi. Interestingly, so they're talking Saudi offer, concrete offer for Malassia. Continuing on. The deal would be worth around 7 million euros. The Manchester United man has received their offers and is in talks with them about a move. If he approves the move, they will send maybe a 7 million euro bid. Malassia is still alive. I feel for him. I think if he wasn't injured, he'd be a good player. And I don't think he suits the system. But I do feel for him a bit. But there's now offers coming in from Saudi. Now the big thing is, and we've got to remember this, is if he approves the move, does Malassia want to go to Saudi? I think when you've been out that long and your career's a bit you can either take the risk and try and get your career back on track, but you didn't have the best time in the Eredivisie, or you go to Saudi, you go, you know what, let's just get my bag now. And he might just say, I've been injured for so long, let's just get my bag. Because it's now come out from another source in the Netherlands that Tyrell Malacia is considering a move to Saudi Arabia as he elevates a formal offer. So if Tyrell Malacia approves this, off to Saudi, bish bash bosh, goodbye. Tier 1 Dutch media now reporting Saudi interested in signing Malacia. Malacia is considering the move. He hasn't said yes, he hasn't given the green light yet, but he's considering the move. So that is a significant development in Malacia. Because at the end of the day, it might not be done, but this is the first time we've really had a good, reliable story with legs to it on Malassia all summer. Tell me a story this summer about Malassia that was reliable, not one. This is the first time all summer we've had a story about Malassia from a good source that is reliable with legs to it. So it looks like there could be some developments there. It's not crazy money, but every little helps. Every little helps. Malassia should move to Saudi and go and build for yourself. Saudi ain't bad, good infrastructure, good weather. Good weather. If Malassia goes to Saudi, they're probably... Wow. There is no need to... What? What? Why some very weird comments in here today? Do you think Antony will go anywhere that's not Betis? Well, that is what we're going to talk about. Anyway, let's dive into it. I think Malassia needs game time. Doesn't matter where it is. Saudi's still a developing league. Yeah, I don't think Saudi's a bad shout for Malassia. He's young, and I think he could go to somewhere like a Benfica. He could go to somewhere like a Lyon and look to get his career back on track. I think he's capable of it. I think we saw Malassia against the likes of Barcelona, against the likes of Liverpool. We saw Malassia in some big games, and he did very well, and there's a player there. But I'm also like, if you've been injured for so long and you just kind of want the money, maybe you go to Saudi. I'm going to get into the Antony news now. The only positive about this transfer window is that our rivals for 5th place have been weakened, while we actually have strengthened our squad. That's true. Do you know what I was thinking this right now? The top 4 is set on. The top 4 is absolutely set. Like, we all know who the top 4 is going to be. We all know who's going to finish in the top 4. That is absolutely set. That is Liverpool, that is City, that is Arsenal, that is Chelsea. They're the top 4. You can't convince me otherwise. But 5th place right now, if Newcastle go into next season with Champions League football, so they're going to need depth, which they haven't got yet, only Elanga in and Isak out, Newcastle could go into the next season significantly weaker. Aston Villa haven't done anything. Aston Villa, rivals for 5th. Newcastle, rivals for 5th. They've not done anything. We know who the top 4 is. Aston Villa haven't done anything. Newcastle haven't done anything significant yet. Tottenham, they're going to be in and up there, but we're going to be playing one game a week. So who else is? Let me look at the Premier League table. Who is realistically in this race for fifth place? Because right now, I think Manchester United's goal would be no European football. I think United would love fifth. I think United will take getting back in the top 8 next season. We've got to be realistic. We finished 15th for a reason. But Nottingham Forest are going to be in Europe, and they've lost Elanga, and they're probably going to lose Morgan Gibbs-White. So Nottingham Forest are going to be weaker. Aston Villa are going to be in Europe and not strengthened. Newcastle are going to be in Europe, potentially without Isak, and not strengthened enough. So they're going to need depth, and they're going to be playing multiple games a week. So that's 5th, 6th, and 7th last season, probably in a weaker position. You've got Brighton that always do well, but are they good enough to get 5th? Bournemouth have lost their 3 best defenders. Brentford, who finished 10th, have lost their manager and all their good players, which brings you to Fulham in 11th, which aren't going to push for top 5. Crystal Palace in 12th, that are losing players, love to come 12th, and are going to be in the Europa League. And then you've got, West Ham, Man United, Tottenham. So I do look at it and say top 4 is set. You'd probably put Newcastle 5th, Villa 6th for safety, maybe Tottenham 7th, Man United 8th, Forest 9th. But I think, I'm not saying we're going to get 5th. Like, let's be honest, I don't think we will. But you're right. It's while the top 4 is strengthened, and while the gap between us, City, Liverpool, and Arsenal and Chelsea is way too big and getting even bigger, and that's annoying. Right now, it's not about closing the gap to the top 4. Right now, it's about closing the gap to 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's what we need to do next season. We need to close the gap to 5th, 6th, and 7th. And people won't like me saying that. People will be saying we need high standards, and we do. But yeah, the Villa, Forest, Brighton are our rivals next season. It's annoying to see what City are doing, Liverpool are doing, Chelsea are doing, Arsenal are doing, because their gap's even bigger. But we can get into 5th or 6th. Yeah. That's what it is. Anyway, guys, we've got 900 people watching right now. So if you have not already, please do go ahead and hit that like button, and feel free to subscribe down below. If you are new and want to stay up to date on United news, I normally do a sort of late morning, midday kind of stream every day, and a 10-minute roundup every evening, and sometimes a 5 p.m. live stream if there's significant news developments. So stay tuned for that. But we're going to talk about Antony, because we've got a few updates coming in regards to Antony's future, a potential exit, and some interesting developments here. Two of Saudi Arabia's top clubs are interested in signing Antony. A move to Real Betis is unlikely at this stage. Antony could be open to Saudi but prefers to stay in Europe. So this is quite a significant development on Antony and Antony's potential exit out of Manchester United. 2 clubs in Saudi are interested in Antony. A move to Real Betis is becoming now unlikely. Antony is open to Saudi but prefers to stay in Europe. How I read this is Manchester United saying to Antony, we're not loaning you out. We're not going to cave and loan you out on the final day to Real Betis. If they don't bid up for you, they don't want you that bad. Make sure you have other clubs. I think that's what United are saying to Antony. I think Man United know that Real Betis are going to drag this on to deadline day and put us in a position where we have no choice but to accept a loan move. Antony is going to look at that and go, if they really liked me and they've made 50 million in sales, why aren't they trying to do some permanent business for me? Antony will look and say, well, I've got other offers. I've got other options. He's going to look, and Man United will put pressure on that, and Antony might get fed up. And the thing is, the minute, and I'm going to tell you this now, let's say Atletico do go in for Antony and open talks with Antony, yeah? The minute that happens, do you think Real Betis are all of a sudden going to have 30 million and drop a bid on Antony? Absolutely. The minute Antony starts talking and actually stops turning down clubs that aren't Real Betis, I think Real Betis could all of a sudden magic up 30 million that they say they don't have, despite literally making 50 million in sales this window. I think they could. 2 of Saudi Arabia's top clubs are interested in signing Antony, and a move to Betis is unlikely. A move to Betis is becoming less and less likely for Antony. Antony's now starting to look more and more options elsewhere, and Antony could be open to Saudi. We're in a position right now where if Antony and Malassia give the green light to Saudi, we could make maybe 35 to 40 million for the both of them if they give the green light to Saudi, on top of the wages being saved, which, yes, Antony, we don't really make that much money for him because of his book value, but it's still a significant amount of profit to help us, continue on to this transfer window and do the business that needs to be done. It's still significant enough in that sense. And hopefully, you know, if I'm Antony, even if you only want Betis, start talking to some other clubs and watch Betis make that move for you. That's all I'm saying. Manchester United be lucky getting top 10. Hopefully we won't be near bottom again. I think we'll finish 8th next season. I think we'll finish 8th. I don't think 5th. I think we'll finish 8th. I think one game a week. We haven't signed a midfielder, which is key. We haven't signed a striker yet. We probably need another defensive addition for depth, and we probably need a goal. We do need a goalkeeper. So we've only signed Mbeumo and Cunha. But I do think one game a week. I do look at our right-hand side, and maybe I'm being too optimistic. But I look at our right-hand side. Lenny Yoro, Mazraoui, Ahmad, Maino, and Mbeumo can all play on that right. Also, if you have Xerxes striker, you've got a technical player in Xerxes striker, a technical right 10 in Mbeumo, a technical right wing back in Ahmad, a technical right centre mid in Maino, and a technical right centre back in either Mazraoui or Yoro. The right-hand side is looking neat. I'm not going to lie to you. I also am a fan of Dorgu, and I think there's a lot to see from Dorgu this coming season. I think Dorgu and Cunha will have a good relationship there as well. But like, I look at United and I think the base 11 isn't too bad. Like, maybe I'm being too optimistic. Maybe I'm being too positive. We've only got Mbeumo and Cunha in the door. There's key build-up issues. These are still the same bunch of players that finished 15th. But I was looking at Manchester United and what we could potentially do. And I was like, this could definitely, I'm not, like, 5th is a push, but this could definitely get us in that sort of top 8. Let me show you our squad for next year. So personally, I wouldn't get Douglas Luiz, but I was trying to be realistic of what we might do. So I was trying to be realistic. So let's say we get Watkins in, Garnacho goes the other way. I put Douglas Luiz in there because he could be available on the cheap. And then I've gone with Lemens because, again, available on the cheap. Would I like Baleba over Douglas Luiz? Absolutely. But I was looking at this and I was like, if you're playing one game a week, this isn't a bad squad. Of course, you know, with Rashford and Garnacho going, you lack that blistering pace, but Mbeumo is quick. Cunha prefers ball to feet, but Watkins and Mbeumo like to make runs behind. In fact, no player made more runs behind in the league last season than Watkins and Mbeumo. Look at how Amarin uses his striker, and Watkins could do that well. I think Dorgu will have a lot to show. I can't believe Luke Shaw's still a Man United player. You've got Agate for legs, Casemiro for experience, Douglas Luiz potentially in there if he's good. There's definitely questions around that midfield pivot. Does it work? Don't get me wrong about that. Maybe you could do another centre-back for depth because Leach, De Ligt and Yoro have proven to be quite injury-prone this season. But I look at it and I say, one game a week. Where's the squad finish? It gives me 8th. I think if you got a good midfielder in, I honestly think if we sign Watkins and Baleba, we could push top 5. Maybe I'm deluded. But if we sign Watkins and Baleba, I think we could push top 5. If you sign Lemens, Watkins, Baleba on top of Mbeumo and Cunha, I think we could push top 5. I do. I think, but I don't think we'd be able to do that. I don't think we'd be able to afford that. People might say, okay, you're crazy. I'm not saying we'd get 5th, but I'm saying we could push it a bit. We could be up there. Now, look, my biggest concern is De Ligt, central centre-back, stepping up in possession. It does not work. Build up under Amarin is not good. I think Aiden Heaven could potentially do that role. Don't want to put that kind of pressure on him. I'm open to something next season, yeah. And this is a bit off topic because I do want to talk about Garnacho to buy him. But I'm open to seeing something next season. I'm going to show you. So this is Chosen 11. So I always do my lineups on Chosen 11 because a couple of people ask me what I use to do the lineups on. And it is Chosen 11. But I want to show you something that I'm potentially open to seeing next season. And then we do want to talk about Garnacho and Hojlund and Watkins news because there is a few developments with Garnacho to Bayern Munich guys, which I think is quite interesting. But I want to show you something. So for now, we're going to put Watkins in because that's the hope. But look, I like Xerxes, don't get me wrong. And Mbeumo, we're just going to put the names in here. Obviously, Cunha. Cool. So that is the front three, yeah. You've got Patrick Dorgu as your left wing back. I'm just going to do the initials because I'm lazy. Ahmad's an easy one to type. Ahmad is the right wing back. You've got, let's say, Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo as the centre mid. Bruno Fernandes is the other centre mid. And you'll be saying, well, Bruno and Kobbie doesn't work together. Hear me out, yeah. Okay. We'll go Sandro Martinez. Again, just doing the initials so it's quicker. Here we go. Casemiro. Hear me out. And then, of course, Lenny Yoro. And then, of course, just goalkeeper, whatever. So all I'm saying is, right, Line Casemiro central centre back. You might be saying what you're talking about because Amrin wants his central centre back to step up as a midfielder. We talk about Bruno and Maino, probably our two best midfielders, but it doesn't quite work. But if Lisandro Martinez and Lenny Yoro can defend very wide, there's other questions around the physicality. Casemiro can step up here. All of a sudden, it becomes more of a midfield three. Who plays their best football in a midfield three? Because De Ligt doesn't do this role very well. De Ligt, by the way, I think is a good player. And I think he was good for us last season. I think he's overhated. But De Ligt isn't the guy that you want to be central centre-back stepping up into midfield. Casemiro, Aiden Heaven have that midfield experience. I'm not saying that this is going to work at all. There's talk about Casemiro United wanting to sell him, but we're not able to sell him because he's on like 300k a week. I would just to let you know. But all I'm saying is that maybe that's how you get the best out of Maino, because you create a midfield three that way. The thing about Casemiro is, does he have the legs to do that? Does he have the legs to do that? Does he have the legs to get that, what we need, out of Maino? I think Aiden Heaven could be that guy in the future. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him. But I'm just saying, like, Aiden Heaven potentially could be a central centre-back. Lisandro Martinez left centre-back. Lenny Yoro right centre-back. He acts as a makeshift DM. All of a sudden, Cobby isn't asked to cover crazy amount of ground. Bruno isn't asked to be super physical. Like, maybe it works. Maybe it works. But that's my big question over it. Over how that works. According to the Mail, Shaw's looking forward to move to Saudi. Well, let's hope Saudi come in for Luke Shaw, and Luke Shaw goes. Our current midfielders suit a midfield three more than our centre backs and full backs. I agree. To be honest, Amrin won't do it, but I just love Amrin to go back to a 4-3-3. I honestly think a 4-3-3, and it doesn't even have to be like a 4-3-3, but like, you know how Liverpool could potentially line up next season? Like, we could almost line up in a 4-2-3-1, and then in build-up, our DM, Casemiro, drops deep into a centre-back, and in build-up, we build in a back five. We could do that. Like, and I feel like people don't explore that is something that we could potentially do. And then you could play Ahmad as your starting right-back, but you could actually make it work. But I don't think that's something that Amrin will explore. My one thing about Amrin is he's had this whole pre-season. So, you know, cool, he's going to do his back five system. A back five system can work. But he's not adapted his back five system at all. He's had this whole window, and I just feel like the back five system has just not changed one bit in the whole window. But I'm just going to show you something here in regards to Lenny Yoro. So let's say we're going to use Casemiro, for example. But I do think Aiden Heaven has potential to do it in future. I do think Aiden Heaven has potential to do it in future. But this is what some teams do, and this is what Xavi Alonso's starting to do at Real Madrid. Is okay. So let's say we line up in a 4-3-3. Ahmad right back. Okay, that's very attacking. Yeah. Let's say we line up in a 4-3-3. That's the lineup. But as soon as Man United build up from the back, our fullbacks turn into wing backs. Our centre backs split, and then in Heaven, Casemiro, the central centre back will drop deep, like that, and we build up like that. I just think it's something that should be explored by Man United. It won't be, but I think it is. You are bizarre today. Am I? I'm just thinking. I'm just like, I'll get into the news. I'm just saying my mind. 4-3-3. I just don't like back fives, and I don't like midfield twos. I like midfield threes, and I like back fours. That's what I like. But anyway, I want to get into Garnacho news. I want to get into some stories and development on Garnacho's potential exit. Because there is now reports coming out from Rob Dawson of Bayern Munich interested in Alejandro Garnacho. His preference is to remain in the Premier League. But I do think, like, okay, your preference is to remain in the Premier League, but surely if a club like a Bayern, like a Barcelona, like a Real Madrid come in for you, like he dreams of Real Madrid, they're not going to go in for him. They've got Mbappe, they've got Vinicius. But like Garnacho dreams to stay in the Premier League. Is the best league in the world. Let's be honest, if Real Madrid wanted Garnacho, he'd be pushing for Real Madrid. If Barcelona wanted Garnacho, he'd be pushing for Barcelona. Bundesliga doesn't quite have that pull, but Champions League football, you're going to win trophies. I think Bayern Munich could pull Garnacho. Like, look, okay, this is no disrespect to Aston Villa because the Premier League is amazing. But you've got let's say Chelsea don't want him. You've got Aston Villa or Bayern Munich. Like, Aston Villa, good club, good manager, better league. Yeah, I think it's more rewarding to win stuff with Aston Villa than it would be with Bayern Munich. But surely you choose Bayern Munich over Aston Villa. If Bayern have that money, because obviously they've been putting in 60 million bids for Diaz, Liverpool want an outrageous amount for Diaz, and Bayern are like, you know what, we put in this bid for Diaz, and Liverpool aren't budging. They're putting in very high bids for Diaz, and Liverpool aren't really budging on that, with Bayern Munich. You do look at it and go, well then, look at Alejandro Garnacho. He might be available for a decentish price. Like, they will look at that and think, okay, there could be an opportunity here to bring in Garnacho. Because I do think I don't think Garnacho would turn down Bayern. Even if I know he turned down Leverkusen. Eric Ten Hag wanted him, but I don't think they would turn down Bayern. What's the latest on Sesko? Newcastle are in contact with him to replace Isak. So I think that's it. Newcastle want 150 million for Isak. Apparently, I think they'll do 100 million in Harvey Elliott. 100 million Harvey Elliott. I think that will do a deal. I think I can see a swap deal. Yeah, Liverpool getting Isak and Ekatike in the same window on top of Wirtz, on top of already having Salah and Gakpo. It's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous. But that's what happens when your football club is sustainable. It's run well. You're not awful. There is talk of Vista leaving Brentford. He's having talks with Villa, Newcastle, and Tottenham as well. But no talk of United hijacking that. Apparently, Bayern have submitted a bid for Luis Diaz worth £60 million. Liverpool want more. So maybe Garnacho is the alternative to that. It will be interesting to see what's going on there. I think now that Rashford's gone to Barcelona, I think Diaz will go to Bayern. And I think Garnacho will be involved in either a swap deal for Jackson or a swap deal for Watkins. If I'm going to be totally honest, I think it will be a swap deal for Jackson or a swap deal for Watkins. I think we're going to get one of Jackson and Watkins, and Garnacho is going to go the other way. And that's how we offload Garnacho, if I'm going to be totally honest. But that's my prediction. Anyway, let me know your predictions down below. Alice in possession. The middle centre-back moved into midfield versus Leeds and in training. That's what I'm trying to say. The middle centre-back moves into midfield, which I don't like. I don't like that the middle centre-back moves into midfield because it doesn't suit Maguire and doesn't suit De Ligt. But I'm saying I would like it if we tried it with Aiden Heaven, and I wouldn't mind seeing us try it with Casemiro. I don't like Amarin's approach with the middle centre-back moving into midfield because De Ligt and Maguire don't suit that. But I'm saying if Amarin's going to persist with this approach, play Casemiro central centre-back, try Aiden Heaven, try Leach, try a centre-back with the ability to play in midfield or a midfielder with ability to play centre-back. That's what I meant. Sorry, that's why I was critiquing it. We have had links to Javi Guerrero, but I think we're being used to get him a big new contract, sadly, because I like the player. Do you think we could get Baleba? No. I want to, but I don't think we will. I think there's a possibility we get a cheap stopgap midfield signing this summer and go all out for Baleba next summer and prioritise midfield next summer. But I don't, unless we get money for Garnacho, Malacia, Antony, Sancho, all of a sudden Casemiro, shock exit, all of a sudden Hojlund goes on a permanent with some decent money coming in. I don't see us being able to afford it. I think Aiden Heaven could be the central centre-back. The reason I don't want to say that is he's still only 18. Lenny Yoro came in at 18, but he's had a whole year playing in Ligue 1 for Lille. Aiden Heaven started about 4 or 5 games for us. He's still so young that I think Aiden Heaven could be that guy. I think Aiden Heaven's a baller, but I don't want to put that pressure on a kid that is 18. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to say Aiden Heaven's going to be the answer because I think that would be really unfair of us to assume an 18-year-old kid's going to be the answer. I think he definitely could be the answer. I think he's an incredibly talented player, but I don't want to speak as if I think that this young kid is the answer just yet. It's not fair on the kid. But yeah, you're right. I think Aiden Heaven could be that central centre-back for United. I'm quite confident he's got the ability to do that, but we don't want to put too much pressure on. And as many people have mentioned, give Kone a chance. I want to see Kone in midfield in pre-season. Kone's gone on the pre-season tour. He didn't play in the Leeds game. But there is rumours that Manchester United may be a little bit reluctant to send him out on loan now, maybe because of lack of midfield options. We've got question marks with Collier. Amron keeps playing as a 10. He's not a 10. Could he go out on loan? But there's questions over Sekou Kone. I'd like to see Sekou Kone given opportunities in pre-season. I don't know about you, but I think right now the midfield is starved. Right now we saw Sekou Kone play about 40 minutes across the 2 post-season tour games. And in those games, he was very good. He was very impressive. You know, he was very good technically. He was very good physically. He was very good in those games. So I would like to see more opportunities, 100% given to Kone. I would like to see it. I'd like to see how he does. Also, let's get into some other news stories. But there is news coming out, and I would take it with a pinch of salt. But this is on Hojlund. and is not the most reliable source in the world, but this is what's been said. Rasmus Hojlund wants to leave Manchester United this summer. Atalanta want to bring back their former striker, and Lazio are targeting him. There is talk of Hojlund now being open to leaving. Hojlund absolutely wants to stay at United and fight for his place and wants to make it work. We know that from Romano, we know that from Ornstein, but they also said there's a strong possibility Hojlund will leave. According to Ornstein and Whitwell, that the Athletic did a brief by the club. They said there's a strong possibility Hojlund will leave, and if Hojlund feels he's not wanted at the club, then he will be open to leaving. I think the fact that Manchester United are going out and actively working on a striker signing, despite already signing 2 attackers, tells Hojlund everything he needs to know about how much United rate him and how much United want him to be our starting striker next year. They don't. So if I'm Rasmus Hojlund, I take the hint and I look for a move. Despite wanting to stay, despite wanting to make it work, I take the hint and I make the move. There's a lot of clubs in Italy interested in Hojlund. Hojlund now, according to some reports, wants to leave. Let's see what happens there with Hojlund developments. Let's see what happens there. Continuing on into some updates on Watkins. Fabrizio Romano gave an update on Watkins late last night. And he said that Manchester United in recent hours have had direct contact with Villa about Watkins. United asked about the situation of Watkins. Aston Villa said they would like to keep the player. It will not be an easy deal to do. Only a good proposal will change the story. Watkins is a £40 million player. Villa aren't going to sell unless they get 60 million, being totally honest. Villa are going to play hardball. Villa are going to play that they don't want to sell. Villa are going to play that game to make sure they can get as much money at Manchester United as possible, which means I think the best way is a Garnacho-Watkins swap deal where they give us 10 million Watkins for Garnacho. I think that's the best potential deal we could do. Newcastle today are going to try and agree personal terms with Sesko, according to Ben Jacobs. So that's an interesting development there. There is talk about Manchester United making an approach for Emi Martinez on loan. That approach for Emi Martinez on loan has been rejected. We're still making a decision as to whether we want to go for Emi Martinez or Lemens, according to Fabrizio Romano. But listen, people, that is all your latest Manchester United news, rounded up live in half an hour. Let me know your thoughts, of course, down below on all the news, all the stories. I'm going to redirect you to Never a Foul in a minute. But big up everyone tuning in. I do think Sesko suits Newcastle. I agree. I don't think Garnacho is going to go to Bayern, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with Diaz. We need to improve depth. Do you think we'll go for Isak? Absolutely not. Atlanta probably don't have the funds. We have to wait and see. Hojlund, Edison swap deal. Atlanta wouldn't do that. Collier's average. Collier's a good player, played out of position. But anyway, go over to Never a Foul. Go raid Never a Foul. Thank you for watching. Bye.